We're trying to show people the real thing.
One thing that's been missing are the people in it.
We're opening up the ship so that people can really see it properly.
Had people doing things, it was a living environment, it was a workplace. Trying to give people the sense of excitement that we had when we first dived down there. It's going to make the ship come alive.
This is the fulfillment of that dream. All these objects we've been filming, like chests or barrels or meat or the ends of shoelaces. A lot of these, I found or we found underwater, but this was just the one object that gave me that feeling. And I suppose it's because it's extraordinarily ordinary. And that's the great thing about the Mary Rose collection. It's not, we haven't just got the special things of the officers and the gentlemen. We've got things that ordinary men in the street would have used. But the original of this, I remember finding underwater. And it's the one object that I remember just literally holding up underwater and thinking, that's amazing. The last person that touched this was the Tudor sailor.
The secret of the Mary Rose right the way through is we've had so many people who have been so passionate and so excited that they will do anything to be involved, and they do. And that means they're not going to get fussy about things changing. They'll just say, okay, yeah, you don't want my legs sawn off, you want my arms sawn off, that's fine, I'll change. And this has been happening right the way through.
There have been several phases to the Mary Rose project, all with their own problems that needed solving. So first there was the finding of the ship between 65 and 71, then the early excavations up to 78, then the really major excavations during that period of 1979 to 1982. And then we actually raised the ship, so that was an enormous event witnessed by people around the world. The next challenge was to actually bring it into the dockyard, then into this dock that it's in, and a temporary building was put up. And the ship was actually sprayed with fresh water up until 1994, and then with a solution of a water-soluble wax called polyethylene glycol. And that wax spraying finally finished in 2013, enabling us to finish building this new museum over the ship and opening it. And it's literally this year, 2016, that the ship is going to be finally revealed without all the spray systems or drying systems spoiling the view of the ship. So this summer is going to be a new chapter in the Mary Rose story.
Hi, my name's Alex. I'm an underwater archaeologist. I'm also curator of human remains and weapons for the Mary Rose Trust. At the moment we're filming a series of 66 little episodes which are going to be projected into the hull of the Mary Rose when we reopen later this summer. And it's really trying to make the ship come alive, trying to give people the sense of excitement that we had when we first dived down there.
A ship like the Mary Rose, it ought to be moving, but in the museum we can't make it move. So the best we can do is to make images in the ship move for us, and people and so on. And that's what's so great about the filming that Graham English is doing, is that it'll bring the ship to life for the public, so that when they view the ship, they can imagine even more people in the ship than are shown in these videos.
My name's Graham English. I run a production company in Manchester called Graham English & Company, and we work in unusual kinds of projection. Domes, 360-degree shows, video incorporated in theatrical presentations, dark rides, theme parks, that sort of thing. So when it comes to projection out of the box, that's what we do. So what we'll be doing is projecting life-size characters onto the various decks in 4 different stages. We put up a green screen in order to get the best black we can. It'll all be keyed out of black. At the end, the projection will just be people against a black background, projected onto the fabric of the ship, so nobody will see the edge of any projector frame. The ship will just be populated with people.
Whenever you're doing a film, people forget the people behind the scenes, the carpentry and the makeup and the clothing. You know, everything goes into it. And so, although our whole approach is about authenticity and integrity, and we've got the real thing, that doesn't mean we shouldn't use some of the techniques of Hollywood to make sure we get our message across.
My name's Dave Bryan. My role was pre-production to make all the items that be green so they can move them around and add them in post-production through the green wizardry stuff. But while I'm actually on set, anything that needs building, painting or nailing, that's my role. The hardest thing would have been the whetstone. It would have been made out of one big block of oak, which would be way too heavy to carry around, so we made that out of polystyrene, and it had to be exact size, obviously, for the green magic to happen. So that was a challenging one, but I think I pulled that one off.
One about it is that if you film someone putting a wooden tankard down on a barrel, it'll be completely different to being a glass being put down on the table. And instead of just taking any old sound from the sound gallery, you know, they recorded everything. So it'll just be background sounds, but you know, I think this whole trying to get the authenticity and the integrity is so important to us.
My name is Peter Key. I'm the sound designer on this project. The job involves creating a soundtrack which is going to be played alongside one of the presentations that visitors will see as they tour the museum. They might be sort of picking up bits of meat and chopping it, and if you record that in situ, the sounds that you pick up may not necessarily be the sounds that you associate with what you're seeing. You might want larger than life sounds, so you'd literally go away and sort of record individual sounds that match the action, and then synchronise those back in.
I think probably the hardest stuff to record so far has been with the barrels, because obviously they're big heavy props. We've only got one that actually opens, and so you have to wait for them to finish filming with that, then grab that, take that off, and then everything that went in or out of that barrel all has to be recorded at the end of the day.
It's a great project. They're a great museum. They're a great bunch of people to work with. But the entire thing, right from the outset, has been exceedingly well thought out. The reflection of the timbers of the ship on one side, as exist, and the other side of the ship reflecting the objects that were found directly opposite where they would be placed in the ship. I think it's just a really solid concept in terms of interpretation. The major problem that we're going to be faced with is, if here's the ship as a curve, and you have your various decks that are still intact. On the opposite side we have a projector. We've got 6 of them in total. Each projector has to cover 4 different parts of the ship. So if you said that that was your projection line, the projection into this quadrant, all of that would be cut off by that extrusion, which means we may end up cutting heads off or longbows. If you invert it, it's even worse, because you'll be cutting their feet off and the barrels and most of the things that are on the ship. This is a major technical challenge. I'm hoping that it will work. If it doesn't, we may have to revert to mirrors to bend the light path downwards and clear of that. That's theory. We'll find out. Find out in June.
We have an incredibly laid-back cast. They're all volunteers, they're all excited. If we say we're ahead of time, can you come in early, they'll be early. They're used to, a lot of them are people who volunteer within the museum or staff within the museum, and they're used to working on the handling tables where they're explaining objects to people anyway, so they know the objects well.
What I like about it is the fact that we're using the sort of the modern day crew, both blokes who work here every week, you know, volunteers and staff. It's rather nice to be in the film representing the real crew at the time, you know.
I've only been doing it for nearly 2 years now, and I wouldn't swap for anything. It's actually brilliant.
Yeah, it's marvellous. Now you've visited us, you are part of the history of the ship. because the ship was a serving ship in the Tudor Navy. It was 437 years a wreck under the sea. The last 34 years it's been a conserved artefact. But now it's open to the public in the new museum.
They don't do anything by halves here, you know. No. They've never done it, you know. It's an amazing museum. It's got a world-class reputation.
Because the point is, all of us who work here are temporary. However long we've been here, we've only been here. But the ship and the museum is a permanent thing.
This is the Master Carpenter. So, Master Carpenter, the carpenter was one of the cabins that I excavated with a colleague of mine, Colin McEwen. And so, it's great to be using all these things. We also did a Tudor shipwright display using a lot of the tools and instruments a while ago. So,
look, very crisp.
Oh, and
You let you've done that before, it just doesn't look like that.
So,
over the years, it just doesn't.
we'll see how it works. Judy, get her on stage with me. Okay, are you ready for me?
We're ready, yeah.
What does the May Rose mean to me? It's difficult to, I think it's difficult to encapsulate that because it's been my life's work. I've been involved with it since 1979, 37 years. So obviously it's in my bloodstream.
Alex and Chris's enthusiasm is, well, not only has it helped us to get where we are as quickly as we have, but it's kept us all enthused as well. It's infectious enthusiasm. It's the same on any film. So once things start to go bad, they really go bad. But when they go well, they go very well. And everybody's very G'd up about it. They've got great senses of humour.
Chris took me on my first dive because he'd been here for the summer and I didn't arrive until October and it was really bad visibility and we couldn't see anything. And you completely didn't know where we were, feeling away this grid to find things, and he took my hand and plunged it into the mud, and it was the back end of a gun, and he was going gun, gun through his mouthpiece and bang, bang, bang. What is this guy? And I was so scared that it was going to be an eel or something. And it's interesting, that was the first bronze gun, and we brought it up December of that year. I think that was one of the last objects to come up. But no, did we ever expect that we'd be doing this 40 years later or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, that was 37 years ago. And I think what is so remarkable is that, what we were doing then was part of a dream. But now, 37 years later, to see that dream as coming to reality, all the ideas that Alex McKee and Margaret Rule and thousands of others had, that is come to reality. And although some of it came to fruition when we opened the museum in 2013, this is the real opening for me, because we're opening up the ship so that people can really see it properly, not just through little narrow windows, but just completely free vision of the ship. And so getting the ship and the objects together and telling this story about the ship, the objects and the people, this is the fulfillment of that dream for so many people over so many years. So although this is a realisation of a dream, the exciting thing about the May Rose Museum is that things will change. Every few years there'll be something different. I think that's the sign of a good museum, that is constantly changing, so it's worthwhile coming back again and again. And all these projects will help to that.
I was just looking at victory.
Put in there now. If you and Will go in there, he wants to record some banter.
So then it's not the same chair. We want 3 chairs.
This is right.
Could we just have one person?
We need one more. Yeah.